They told me I'd be alone during the night shift. Just me, the freezing wind, and the occasional chopper. But no one warned me about the eyes that watch from the tree line, or the wet footprints that appear near the fuel tanks at 2:33 a.m. sharp. There's a list of 8 strange rules taped to the break room fridge. I followed 7 of them. And now the darkness wants something in return. Asterisk, I took the job because I needed to disappear. Simple as that. After what happened in Colorado Springs, after what I saw, I couldn't be in populated areas anymore. So when the ad popped up for a night shift operator at a helicopter refueling station in northern Alaska, it felt like someone out there had read my thoughts and handed me an escape hatch. Isolated station. Night work. $75 per hour. Minimal human contact. Experience preferred, not necessary. I clicked apply before I even finished reading the whole thing. 2 weeks later, I was flown into Barrow, Alaska, the last blip of light before the tundra swallows everything. From there, I was driven another 2 hours north into what can only be described as a man-made hellhole in the middle of nowhere. A small refueling pad built between a frozen swamp and a half-dead forest. The previous worker, they told me, went missing mid-shift. Nobody blinked when they said it. Ice Cube 2. The station, there wasn't much to it. 1 fuel truck, 2 landing pads, a compact station shack with a single cot, a radio unit, a generator that whined like it was dying, and a break room with mismatched furniture from the 70s. The walls were covered in frost. Even on the inside, everything smelled like metal, kerosene, and ancient mildew. But what really caught my attention was the paper taped to the refrigerator. Scroll the rules, scrawled in Sharpie on oil-stained paper. Only refuel helicopters that radio ahead. If one lands without notice, do not approach it. At 2:33 a.m., check the fuel tank for condensation. If it's wet on the outside, lock yourself in the shack and do not look out. Never speak to the men in orange flight suits. They're not part of any registered crew. The lights around the landing pad may flicker. That's normal. What's not normal is when they all go dark. If that happens, turn off the radio. At exactly 3 a.m., you may hear rotors but see no aircraft. Do not step outside. If you hear a knock on the back door, no you didn't. There is no back door. The emergency generator will shut off at 4:17 a.m. every Sunday. Don't panic. Sit quietly and wait. Never, and this is underlined 3 times, never refuel the blue helicopter. I laughed at first. I thought it was a prank left behind by the last guy, until I opened the desk drawer and found the shotgun with 5 shells, each one carved with the word sorry. Helicopter 3. First shift. The first few hours were uneventful. That a medevac chopper from the north touched down around 11:45 p.m. I refueled them. They thanked me and were gone in under 15 minutes. They had radioed in like the rules said. They wore green gear. They looked tired, real, normal, but something about the way the pilot glanced over my shoulder as I signed his clipboard made my skin crawl, like he saw something standing behind me. When I turned around, there was nothing, just the woods, but the tree line felt closer somehow. Stopwatch for 2:33 a.m. The first violation at exactly 2:32 a.m. I felt it, an almost imperceptible change in the air pressure, like the station inhaled. The windows fogged up from the outside. The lights over pad 2 began to flicker. Once, twice, then held steady. I remembered rule number 2. I grabbed the flashlight, went outside to check the tank. It was glistening. Wet. I froze. The air was frigid, sub-zero. But the tank looked like it had just come out of a steam room. Then, I heard it. Slap, slap, slap. Bare feet on the gravel behind me. I turned fast. Nothing. Just my own breath and the slow groan of the wind. I didn't wait. I ran inside, bolted the door, shut the blinds. I almost looked out the window. Almost. But something in me, some deep, primal sense, told me I wouldn't survive whatever ISAW.SO. I sat in the dark, shotgun on my lap, counting down every minute until 3:00. Bust in silhouette 5. The orange suits. A week passed. I got used to the silence, the cold, the rules, until the night the orange flight suits came. They landed without radio contact. Pad 1.3 of them, NO insignias. No helmets, no sound, just a mechanical whir from the chopper that made my fillings ache. They stepped out and stood perfectly still. Didn't ask for fuel, didn't even look at me, just faced the shack point. One of them tilted his head like he was listening for something. That's when I remembered rule #3. So I locked the door and waited. After 5 minutes, they got back in and lifted off. No rotors. No downwash. Just gone. Cyclone 6. 3 a.m. Phantom rotors. Some nights I'd hear it. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Blades chopping the air directly overhead. But there'd be nothing in the sky. No lights. No shadows. No movement. Just sound and static in the radio that whispered words like closer and let us in. I never opened the door. 7. The knock at the back door. There is no back door, but I heard it anyway. Knock. 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 One night, I yelled, "Who's there?" A little girl's voice answered. "Can I come in now? I'm cold. You forgot about me." My blood froze. I don't have a daughter. Then the voice changed. It grew deeper. "Rotten. You broke rule 2. I held my breath. The knocking didn't stop for 6 hours. Blue Square 8. The blue helicopter had arrived on my third Sunday. NO radio called NO insignia. Just a deep blue paint job, so dark it looked black. The thing hovered longer than it should have. 10 minutes. 20, then it landed without sound. The pilot stepped out. His uniform was soaked, dripping. His skin, bloated and pale. He didn't speak. Just stared at me, holding a fuel hose in his hand like an offering. I stepped back. He smiled. His teeth were needles. I shut the door. He stood there until the sun rose, then vanished. The hose still lay curled on the pad, wet with black sludge. Fire 9. The burned out shift last night. I made a mistake. I dozed off. When I woke up, all the lights were out. Radio dead. Generator silent. It wasn't Sunday. My watch said 4:17 a.m. That's when the shack started to shake. Something large, massive, was circling the building. I heard voices in the wind. Dozens, hundreds, screaming, laughing, crying, all saying the same thing. You saw it. Now you're part of it. When I looked in the mirror above the sink, my eyes weren't mine anymore. They were dark, endless, drop of blood. 10. End of shift. I've followed every rule since. But now the rules are changing. New ones appear on the fridge every morning, written in the same handwriting, but I haven't touched a pen in days. Last night's new rule. Rule 9. Train your replacement before you leave. Only problem is no one ever leaves. I thought the rules were weird. Then I broke one, and the station changed. Now there's something knocking where there's no door. Choppers landing without sound. And the reflection in my mirror is no longer mine. Rule 9 appeared last night. One I never saw before. Train your replacement before you leave. But what if no one is coming to take this job? What if I'm the replacement for someone who never left? Snowflake 1. You'll feel the air change first. It was colder than usual. Not the kind of cold that comes from temperature, but the kind you feel in your spine. That unnatural stillness in the air, as if the entire station were holding its breath. The sky above the pad was completely cloudless, painted with millions of stars. Too many. They pulsed, dimmed, then blinked in odd patterns that I'd seen strange things before. But this felt wrong. Something old was awake. I sat on the edge of my cot, shotgun in hand, staring at the fridge. Rule 9 was written on the back of an old map this time. Train your replacement before you leave. A question started forming in my mind, one I didn't want to answer. Had the man before me written that line for me? Helicopter 2. The new guy at 9:14 p.m. The radio crackled. Not the usual static, but a clean, sharp voice. Tower Alpha, come in. Got a new arrival for Pad 1. New arrival? I never get company. Ever. The voice was followed by coordinates and call signs I didn't recognize. Then silence. At 9:26 p.m. Headlights crested the frozen ridge beyond the pad. A black snow truck pulled up. A man stepped out. Young, early 20s. Pale skin. Hoodie. Oversized parka. Shivering like a wet dog. He held up a file and waved awkwardly. Hey, you the night operator? I nodded. They told me to report here. You're training me. I froze. This can't be real. The moment I heard his voice, I realized something I hadn't considered until now. If Rule 9 is active, does that mean Rule 10 is coming next? Clipboard 3. I showed him the rules. We went inside the shack. He took off his gloves, rubbed his hands together. His name tag read C. Marin. No rank. No company logo. Just that name. So this is it, huh? Kinda cozy. I didn't laugh. I just pointed to the fridge. He looked at the rules for a solid minute. Then he turned to me and said, "Dead. Serious? These are a part of the job?" I nodded. Slowly, he squinted. "Wait, don't speak to men in orange suits? What kind of station is this?" I told him the truth. Everything. From the blue chopper to the barefoot footsteps. From the wet fuel tanks to the backdoor knocks. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he asked a single question. "Why are you still here?" I didn't have an answer. Ice Cube 4. The ice beneath us. Later that night, while Marin was outside walking the perimeter, I checked the crawl space under the shack. Something had been scratching at the floorboards for weeks. I found scrapings. Long, deep grooves in the wood. And a puddle. Oil? Water? No. It was blood, frozen solid. But it wasn't fresh. It was old. Rusty. Stained. And beneath the floorboards was something else. A second layer of wood. Newer. Nailed down tight. I pressed my ear against it. And I heard breathing. Alarm clock 5:2:33 a.m. The tank is wet again. I forgot to warn Marin about rule #2 at exactly 2:33 a.m. The lights flickered. I checked the tank. Wet. Shimmering. I ran back inside. But he wasn't there. I looked through the slit in the curtain. He was out by the generator, staring into the forest. The treeline was closer again. I opened the door a crack. "Marin, get inside." He turned slowly. His eyes were wide, pale, unblinking. Then he said something that chilled me. "They're calling my name. Evergreen Tree 6. The forest is not empty." I dragged Marin back inside. He resisted, mumbling. "It sounds like my mom's voice." That's when I knew. They were testing him. The rules? They weren't just precautions. They were trials. Rituals. Like feeding a beast that only understands obedience. I told him to sit and listen carefully. "Whatever you hear, whatever you think you see, it's not real. The station lies." His response. "Then why does it feel more real than this room?" Police car light 7:03 a.m. Invisible rotor blades this time. I saw it. I saw the shape in the fog. A massive, hulking helicopter that never touched the ground. Blades that didn't spin, but hovered like shadows of themselves. Marin stepped toward the window. I shoved him down. The sound outside grew louder, deafening, like 100 engines roaring at once. Then, all at once, silence. When we looked again, it was gone, but the window had cracked from the outside. There were teeth marks in the glass. Speaker high volume 8. The radio played something new for 00 a.m. The radio, which had been silent since sundown, whispered, "Rule 10 initiated. Replacements incomplete. Termination in 3 cycles." Marin stared at me. "Termination?" I stared at the fridge. The rules had changed. A fresh paper. Rule 10. If the replacement is incomplete by the 3rd night, both will remain. That's when I understood the final truth. The station doesn't want employees. IT wants prisoners. Fire 9. Sunday, for 17 a.m. On Sunday, at exactly 4:17 a.m., the generator died. Darkness fell over the station like a curtain being pulled tight. We sat quietly. The air felt heavier. That's when the floorboards beneath the shack cracked open, and something crawled out. Tall, wearing orange flight gear. Its eyes were wide, but there were no pupils, just mirrors. IT pointed at Marin, and it spoke in my voice. "He's not trained." Then it turned and walked back beneath the shack. Video cassette 10. The tape? There's a VHS tape hidden behind the fridge. I don't know how long it's been there. On it. In Sharpie. Last successful replacement. I watched IT showed a man, just like me, training a young operator. But something went wrong. The trainee opened the back door. He let them in. The last frame of the tape? The new guy, Marin, sitting alone in the station, staring at the fridge as new rules start appearing. The refueling station is not just a workplace. It's a trap. A ritual site feeding something inhuman. And now, Marin is starting to hear his name in the wind. The rules have changed. I'm not the operator anymore. I'm the trainer. And soon, I'll be the thing under the floorboards. They sent me to an isolated chopper station in the middle of frozen Alaska. They gave me 8 rules taped to the fridge and said, "Just follow these and you'll survive." I followed most of them. I broke one. Now I'm training a replacement. But the rules are changing. And the station isn't just alive. It remembers. Fire 1. The 3rd night begins. The night began the way it always did. Frozen silence, black sky, and a feeling that something was watching from beyond the treeline. Floodlights around the pad flickered again. That used to scare me. Now I'm scared when they don't flicker. Marin, my so-called replacement, was pacing nervously in the shack. "I don't think I can do this," he whispered. I heard it again, the knocking. I turned slowly from the window. "What time?" 2:33. "Did you look?" "No." "Then you're still alive." He didn't laugh. Neither did I. Helicopter 2. They found a wreck at 9 p.m. sharp. The radio buzzed. But not with a voice this time. Just a burst of static and coordinates, repeated twice that I grabbed the ancient military issue map from the drawer. The coordinates pointed to a location just 3 clicks northeast of the station, .an unmarked. "Zone," the voice returned. "Recovery ops required. Confirm visual on site Echo, Charlie 9. I'd never been asked to leave the station before. Rule number 0, unwritten but understood, was never leave the perimeter, but the map was pulsing. Not physically, but in my head, like something was dragging me toward it. Snow-capped Mountain 3. Into the ice, Marin and I drove the old snowcat across the tundra, guided only by floodlight and dead compass at the 3-kilometer mark. The engine whined like it was pushing against something unnatural. The trees here were black and warped, twisted like they'd been flash-frozen mid-scream. Then we saw that a wrecked helicopter, partially buried under the IC&O markings. Its tail section was torn open like something had crawled out. I got closer and noticed something scrawled in blood across the shattered door. "Do not refuel." Marin stayed back. I climbed inside the broken cockpit and found the flight log, dated 1971. The last entry: fuel compromised, crew infected, cold won't hold it anymore. Drop of blood for the first survivor. As I turned to leave, I saw her. A woman curled up in the rear of the chopper. Alive, barely. Her skin was blue, frostbitten. She looked at me with one good eye and whispered, "Don't let it inside again." Then she handed me something wrapped in cloth. A vial of thick, black fuel. But it moved. It pulsed like a heart. Then she screamed, and it wasn't her voice. It was the choppers. It was the wind. It was the station. I ran. Marin was already back in the snowcat, shivering and crying. "There's something in the trees," he whispered. Wrench 5. "The generator has blood now." When we got back, the station was wrong. The windows were breathing. Not fogged, breathing. Marin threw up in the sink. I placed the vial in the generator's intake hatch. It hissed. The lights came on, brighter than ever before. The hum of the station changed frequency. For the first time in weeks, I could hear the voices clearly. "You brought it back." Radio 6. New rules appeared. By morning, 4 more rules had appeared on the fridge scroll. Updated rules: if the fuel pulses, do not destroy it. It remembers. Training must be complete by the 3rd night, or both will be claimed. If the treeline moves, do not acknowledge it. Never open the hangar at the end of the runway. It opens itself when it's ready. Marin looked at me, face pale, lips trembling. "What hangar?" That's when the ground shook. We ran outside. Beyond the pad, at the edge of the tundra, something had risen from the snow. A rusted, ancient hangar. It hadn't been there before. Derelict House 7. Inside the hangar, it took us 2 hours to gather the courage. Inside the hangar was a mirror, floor to ceiling, unbroken, reflective, but what it showed wasn't US. It was the station, in another timeline, burning, covered in ice, swarmed by creatures in orange flight suits. We saw ourselves, too, but older. Marin was crying. I was on my knees, and behind us, something with rotor blades growing out of its back, whispering in binary. "Training complete," it said in the mirror. Then the reflection smiled. We ran. Chains 8. The shack is alive. Back in the shack, something had changed. The walls had grown. The shack was bigger, different. The fridge now had a second paper taped to it. "Do you accept the final rule?" Below it, 2 boxes. "Yes, no," Marin screamed. His reflection was missing from the microwave door. I looked at the mirror in the bathroom. My reflection was wearing an orange suit. Police Garlight 9. Breaking every rule at once. We had 1 night left. If we failed, we'd both be trapped forever. I did something desperate. I broke every rule at once. I opened the door at 2:33 a.m. I fueled the blue chopper. I looked at the forest. I walked into the hangar. I answered the knocking. And when I turned off the generator at 4:17 a.m., the station blinked. I was inside the reflection. Marin was Gone. No, not gone. He was outside, watching me through the glass. Skull 10. The cost of fuel. I write this now from a place that is not real, but feels more real than anything ever has. Time doesn't work here, but the rules still apply. Every night, someone new comes to the station. They always ask, "What's this paper on the fridge?" And I always say, "Just follow the rules, or you'll end up like me." But I never warn them about Rule 13. Because that rule is me. Scroll Rule 13. If you see a man in your reflection who doesn't move when you do, leave immediately. That's not your reflection. That's the last operator, and he wants out. I broke every rule. Fueled the blue chopper. Opened the door. Answered the knock. Looked at the forest. Entered the hangar. Turned off the generator. And the station blinked. I was pulled into the reflection, trapped in a place that looks exactly like my world, but colder, slower, hungrier. Now Marin walks free. And I'm the one behind the glass. But the rules still follow me. And tonight, the final rule will be written. 1. Not a reflection. A replacement. I've been in this mirror world for 3 nights now. The sky is always dark here. The stars blink out of sync. Time drips like oil. Heavy, slow, stretching. The station looks the same, but every surface is colder than it should be. The windows frost from the inside, even when there's no wind. The fuel tanks breathe. And the fridge? The fridge has new rules every night, written in blood that steams in the cold air. Ice Cube, the new final rules, written in jagged script. If your reflection stops copying you, run. Do not trust the voice that sounds like you. It lies. Fuel must be offered before sunrise. If not, the station takes you instead. You may request release only once. It will cost everything. There's one rule left that IT hasn't appeared yet, but I can feel it coming, like rot growing in the foundation. Fire 2. Marin returned. On the 4th night, I saw Marin through the mirrored window. He was standing where I used to stand, just outside the shack. Except, it wasn't really him. He looked hollow. His coat was too clean, his smile too wide. His eyes were glassy and unfocused. Then he knocked once on the window and mouthed something. "Do you want to come back?" I nodded instinctively. Then he opened his mouth unnaturally wide, and a radio signal came out. Not sound, static, the kind that tastes like metal and smells like burning teeth. He whispered, "Fuel for flesh. Trade complete. Door will open soon." And vanished. Door 3. The door appears that night. A new door appeared behind the cot, carved into the wood. Exit available. Enter to be judged. No handle. Just the sound of faint rotors on the other side. I sat by it for 6 hours, holding the shotgun, but I knew the only way out was through. Video cassette 4. What the tapes show, there are hundreds of VHS tapes in the mirrored shack, all labeled. Operator number 23, fuel delivered. Operator number 54, refused entry. Operator number 88, broke rule 1. Operator number 109, became the knock. One tape stood out. Operator number 1, Origin I. Played IT. Showed a black and white image of a much older station. Military. 1952.3 men in uniform dragging something alive, but not human, into the generator room. Whatever it was, it had rotor blades growing from its back and dozens of eyes along its ribs. It wept smoke and whispered to each man in a different language. When they locked it inside the fuel tank, the screen cut to static and a final message appeared. Containment successful. Refueling protocol initiated. This station wasn't just for helicopters. IT was a prison for an entity that eats time, identity, and fuel. Brain 5. The entity speaks. That night, the walls whispered. Not words, but memories. Memories that weren't mine, yet felt like mine. A girl I'd never met calling me dad. A burning forest I'd never run through. A wedding. A funeral. A room of mirrors with no exits. The shack began to fold, walls bending inward like paper. The air filled with screams, not of pain, but of becoming. And then I heard my own voice. You accepted the rules. Now you are one. Cyclone 6. The fuel is alive. I opened the fuel hatch. Inside was a heart. Pulsing. Wet. Covered in rotor blades that spun silently. IT spoke directly into my skull. You left the door open. I crawled out. I've worn your skin before. I'll wear it again. I staggered back. My fingernails began turning black, like burnt wire. I looked into the reflection again. The version of me in the mirror was smiling. It whispered, "You broke the cycle. Now you must become the rule." Stop sign 7. The final rule appears just before dawn. The final rule appeared on the fridge, but not written, etched. Burned into the steel with what looked like claws. Scroll final rule. Rule 17, if your name is no longer yours, and your shadow moves without you, your shift is over. You are now part of the fuel. I checked the mirror. My name tag. Blanked on my shadow. It was still moving, but I wasn't. Candle 8. Requesting release. I remembered Rule 16. You may request release only once. It will cost everything. So I whispered aloud, "I request release." Nothing happened for 47 seconds. Then, the station shuddered. The mirror cracked. The fuel tank hissed. The back door, the one that never existed, opened. Beyond it, a room filled with every version of myself I've ever been. Happy, angry, suicidal, curious, loving, empty. They all turned to look at me and spoke in unison. "Then who will take your place?" Warning 9. The next operator. I woke up back in the real station. Or so I thought. But something's off. Marin is gone. The fridge is empty. The rules? All gone. The only thing left is one single message, scribbled in black ink across the wall. "Welcome, operator number 118. You are now the rule." Repeat button 10. A chopper lands without radio. It's 11:47 p.m. A chopper is landing on pad 2. No radio. No lights. I see orange suits. They're waiting at the door. The new guy just pulled up. He's stepping out of a truck, holding a duffel bag and looking lost. He sees me. "Hey, you the night operator?" "Yeah. They said I'm replacing someone." "You are." He looks around the shack, confused. "What's this weird paper on the fridge?" I look at him for a long time. Then I smile, and I say, "Just follow the rules. Drop of blood, there is no escape." There never was. The station doesn't just refuel helicopters. It refuels the cycle, and once you've fed it, it feeds on you. Every broken rule becomes a new operator. Every mistake writes a new rule, and every night, the blue chopper returns. Skull the complete list of strange rules. For new viewers, only refuel helicopters that radio ahead. At 2:33 a.m., check the tank. If wet, lock the shack. Never speak to men in orange flight suits. If all pad lights go out, turn off the radio. If you hear rotors with no chopper, stay inside. If you hear knocking on the back door, you didn't. Generator dies at 4:17 a.m. Sunday. Wait it out. Never refuel the blue helicopter. If the fuel pulses, don't destroy it. It remembers. Training incomplete equals termination for both. If the trilene moves, don't acknowledge it. The hangar opens itself when it's ready. If your reflection doesn't mimic you, run. Don't trust voices that sound like you. Fuel must be offered before sunrise. You may request release once. Cost everything. If your name is gone and your shadow moves alone, shift complete. You are fuel now.